Hey everyone, this is Stevie Richards. Welcome back to the Garage Gym. In today's video, we have a very long-term review, 1 year plus, of this right here, the Isochain isometric device. You can hear the chain. That's why they call it the Isochain. This is a bar and chain device with a plate on the bottom where you hook the chain to that, hook the other end of the chain to this right here. And this essentially gives you just incredible feedback. Now, isometrics are basically flexing your muscles, squeezing your muscles, but this takes it to a whole different level where you're able to actually get digital feedback on the screen of the Isochain, and that really for the price, because a lot of times, and that could be one con, there's really two cons. So maybe the price scares people away, but when you're talking about value, when you're talking about what this has to offer, and you understand what you're getting into and what you need in your fitness journey regarding isometrics, the price could be less scary to you. Of course, it's expensive, but it has a lot of components to it, a lot of build quality. We're talking about a metal plate, we're talking about chains, we're talking about a very heavy spring that really hasn't flexed or anything. And we're gonna get into the plate bending, the chains, all that stuff over the year plus. I did an Instagram reel where I said, I'm getting back into isometrics as part of my fitness journey. As a matter of fact, we're gonna have a dedicated video about what I'm doing as far as isometrics, what my dynamic workouts, what program that I'm kind of doing a hybrid with something like this, the Isochain. So, and also we're gonna do a comparison video of this versus the Bull Worker Bow Classic. So please stay tuned, subscribe, click the bell to get notified for that. Back to the Isochain. So this thing, after a year plus of use, has held up extremely well. And mostly what I've used it for, if you look at the isometric manual that you can get from Dragon Door Publications, or if you even look online for different programs and workouts, I'm doing a 6x6 3 times a week. So we're talking about deadlift, row, sometimes shrug, depending upon how my neck is. Also bicep curls, shoulder press, depending upon if you, now this is something you have to think about too. There's a low, medium, and high position. So some of these exercises I'm gonna show you in the B-roll are in the low position, low to mid, and then some of them, because of injuries I need to currently work around, are in the high position. You can do all 3 of those, and it's a hell of a workout. But what I'm doing is 6x6, meaning 6 sets of not 6 reps, but 6 seconds of time under tension. And that's where the display for the Isochain comes in handy, because it has audible beeps that show you when you hit the weight that you pick for this. That's something else you can do. Pick the amount of resistance that you want to hold for those 6 seconds, 7 seconds, up to 12 seconds, depending upon the routine. That is, it's really, when it comes to isometrics, a game changer, because you can guess, you can set up a timer, you can do much more affordable things or affordable ways of doing that. But when it comes to the Isochain and the feedback and the value proposition for what you're getting, the price, which seems daunting and scary at first, it may make you want to use it, because you're like, I'm paying all this money, kind of like what we have some of this equipment. I'm paying all this money, I'm gonna get my money's worth out of it. That could be a motivating factor for a lot of people. Why am I mispronouncing every word with my Philly accent? Motivating factor, there we go. With why people invest in stuff like, say, the G15, the Squad Max, other expensive pieces of equipment, because they know I spent this money and I need to use it as much as possible to get my money's worth or money back out of buying this thing. So that's probably one con. The other con, you can hear it right here. The other con is the noise. So you're talking about a heavy metal chain. This heavy metal chain right here is no joke. So if you work out early in the morning, and I said this in the initial full review up here on the YouTube channel, as well as I think the 6-month review that's also here on the channel. If you're working out early in the morning, you're trying to be quiet, you have spouses sleeping, family sleeping, animals sleeping, or something like that, you're gonna make a lot of noise. Also, I would say maybe a third con, this thing is pretty portable, but if you're gonna travel or fly with it, obviously you need some kind of dedicated case or travel thing. And of course the weight, it might, even with everything packed, you might have to check it instead of taking it as a carry-on. Speaking of traveling and portability, We're going to do a full comparison review of the Isochain and the Bullworker Bow Classic after I do the full review on the Bullworker Bow Classic. Now, that will be from the beach, and that's the other point. I wanted to do this review from the beach and show a full workout using it on the beach. But of course, carrying it from my car, walking it down the steps, it's not too far. But when you're carrying something this heavy and cumbersome without the case, especially without the case, it's going to just be, and plus the noise it makes, unless the beach is empty, it could cause unwanted attention. So that's the life of a YouTuber that does fitness videos, I guess. But we will. I didn't say I wouldn't do it. I just said I have to pick my spots, make sure that I'm only taking this, and well, I got to take the camera gear, of course, but you know, taking this and hopefully my wife helping me carry stuff down there to film, and I can do the workout review on the beach. So look forward to that, hopefully. Now I got to do it. Now that I said it, I put it out in the universe, but I will do it. I promise I will do it. But getting back to this too, just everything, like I'm going to show in the B-roll of the workout with the deadlift and all the other exercises, all the things that people have complained about with the Isochain as well. And I've been looking out for it and testing it, and I've been using it more than not using it over the year plus that I've owned it. Flexing in the plate. Flexing in the plate, I think in the first gen or early gen was a problem and an issue. They reinforced it. It does bend or warp a little bit, especially for deadlifts. When I do deadlifts, because that's my strongest lift using the Isochain, it does have bend. But I'm looking at it right now, and throughout the entire workouts that I do, it goes right back to flat. It flexes a little bit because you have a hook in the middle, you have heavy spring, you have the chains, and you're pulling as hard as you can, time under tension with certain lifts, and it's going to flex a little bit. But the plate is definitely held up extremely well. The chain I have here, when we're showing this B-roll, the chain has not rusted a little bit, but on the surface oxidized. I've left this in the trunk of my car, and especially after we moved to Florida, we're not too far from the beach. So it looks like a ton of rust, but it's just some oxidation off the powder coat of the chain. I don't like the way it looks. It doesn't hurt the functionality of the chain. The chain is not flexed. The chain is not getting chewed away at all. It's just oxidized. I could probably spray paint it with some black spray paint, and we're good to go. It kind of gives it a good old school, like 60s, 70s Power Man type look, but it doesn't hurt anything. So when you see it in the B-roll, don't get scared off by the fact that, oh, it looks like the chain is rusting. I left it in the trunk, I'm talking about for weeks or months, and that's what I got out of it, and it has not hurt anything with the Isochain. And I will make this point, really inspect the hooks. I can't pronounce the other word. Inspect the hooks, the connection points, everything on the Isochain, especially on the part that hooks up to the bar. Just inspect it. I inspected before and after every workout, and it's held up extremely well. All these points, they even had said they had a failure point of this part right here in the early gen, but John and the team have fixed that. They fixed that before I got the Isochain, or somewhere around that time. I did not get one of the ones that had the issue of that connection point to the bar breaking off. But from my understanding, the customer service was awesome. They shipped them out a new one, and people were very, very happy with it. And that's something also I wanted to talk about, customer service. They've been amazing. They have an Isometric Isochain users group on Facebook. Great communication with everybody. But as far as customer service and what they have to offer, as far as backing up and supporting their products, I have to say that's, there's no way my audio plugin can get rid of that chain sound, but their customer service, their warranty support for this is amazing. As long as you're within the warranty period, you should be fine. And you should know soon enough, if you're using this for isometric exercises, you're going to know if it's going to stand the test of time, especially if you're doing, like I said, 3 6x6 workouts, or some people do the Bruce Lee one set of 12 seconds, as hard as they can go with the isometrics, 7 days a week. So if you use it, you're going to know the build quality is there, rock solid. And if it's not, the company will back it up and send out a replacement part or the whole thing if everything is. I've never seen that though. I've never seen like a failure from the plate, the spring, the chain, the connection, and the display. I've never seen that at all. I've never seen like a fully defective unit from Dragon Door with the Isochain. But let's talk about it. Now, this obviously has electronic parts in it. The battery life has been really amazing. You can just swap it out with a regular battery. There's no special watch battery or anything like that. It has a battery door on this. You can replace it very, very easily. But after a year plus, almost 6 months of full-time use and then kind of trailing off, and then recently over the past couple of weeks, using it again full-time, it has not even lost a bar off of that. Now, you want to make sure you shut it off when you're done with it. You want to check the display at the same time that you're checking to see if there's any kind of wear and tear that your safety could be at risk. So make sure you do those little inspections before and after, but the battery life has been incredible using this. So I'm really satisfied. All right, so let's talk about the actual exercises that I do with this and some of the ergonomics or some of the tough parts of the ergonomics with my fitness journey and my history of injuries. So obviously we talked about the deadlift. Deadlift is my strongest lift using the Isochain. I prefer to do the mid to high. Mid to high is where I prefer. When I go low, it makes my back at a certain point feel a little hinged too much with that. And I do use my legs and I try to, but the mid to high is usually what I use that for with the deadlift. And that feels the most, well, comfortable is not a term, but it feels the least uncomfortable. And I make sure I breathe. And this is what I do. I don't do any standard deadlifts. I only do isometric deadlifts using the Isochain. So the next exercise is one I did on the 6-month updated review, and I love this. Thanks to Chris from No Limit Squad. He does all kinds of Isochain reviews and tutorials. Check his channel out. Bent over rows were bothering me after the deadlifts, especially after the deadlifts. So I was doing basically a seated row like I have on the G15, the seated row foot plate. I just basically come up, I make sure everything's there. It seems a little wonky at first. If you want to put this plate up against the wall, then your problems are solved. I keep it in the middle, especially for filming purposes, but I could very easily go to one of the walls in the garage that are open and just push it against there and get it all set up. Once again, you can pick, am I going to do the row at the shortest point of the chain, mid, or all the way back? I choose somewhere between low, the furthest to midpoint. Works out very well. I am going to start doing the closest point where the bar is going to be closest to my chest so I can squeeze my shoulder blades more, but I feel it. And I do a supinated version, which means I incorporate my biceps. So by the time I get to the bicep curl isometrics, they're pretty burned, but bicep curls, isometric bicep curls are really great. Really great. I can't overstate it enough when it comes to biceps, and we're going to talk about triceps, even shoulder, anything. But with biceps, I have a lot of tendonitis in this right bicep here. I almost tore it a few years ago, so I'm really careful not to go too heavy. And also, applying the isometrics into that has been a godsend. So this is one of my favorite exercises, the bicep curl with the Isochain. And next, what we do is the shoulder press. Now the shoulder press, once again, low, mid, and high. On this one, I'm doing a high version because my traps are feeling a little sore today. My neck's feeling a little sore. I skipped shrugs. You can do shrugs with this. On the past videos, we do demonstrate that. But I did the high version for 2 reasons. Number one, it put it on my delts more than my traps. And number 2, the next thing is doing the tricep exercise, which is the absolute toughest exercise of anything I've tried with the Isochain. I just can't get the ergonomics down. On this one, I went a little past mid on it, but what I'm probably going to do is go to the high point where it'll be almost over the top of my head. I'm not very strong at all with it. As a matter of fact, this is the one where I feel it a little in my elbows, even with the isometrics, which tells me I need to do more isometrics because the dynamic parts like push downs and closed grip bench presses and stuff like that are probably inflaming my elbow even more, meaning I need to really implement isometrics even more often with more just work like that to strengthen the muscle and take the impact off of this right elbow. So that about does it for this very long-term review. 1 year plus using the Isochain. That's why they call it the Isochain. They named it right. It's got a chain and it's pretty loud. So I feel like one of those ghosts from Christmas Carol when I move that around. But this product I'm very, very satisfied with. Don't let the price scare you away. Now, if it doesn't fit your fitness journey, if it's not right for you, or if the buy-in is too much, look for that comparison between this and the Bullworker Bow Classic. The Bow Classic is a little bit more affordable than the Isochain, offers some feedback, although it's analog and not digital like the Isochain offers. So you may want to compare between that. That comparison video is going to come right after the full review on the Bullworker Bow Classic. And you'll probably get me kind of pulling the Isochain into the shot as I'm using the Bow Classic, so you can kind of get a preview of my thoughts organically of comparing the two. But we'll do a dedicated comparison review. Look for that. Also, if you decide to go for, there it is again. If you decide to go for the Isochain, if you decide to purchase the Isochain, please use my affiliate link. It helps support the channel. And sometimes, depending upon the link that you use in the description below, it can save you some money. I appreciate all the support. I appreciate you guys watching this video, subscribing, and clicking the bell to get notified. And once again, using the affiliate links to help support the channel. Most importantly, God bless each and every one of you. Have a great day.